Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Sequel Q&A. My name's Doug. So, the next sequel that we're going to be covering is a goodie. When I think about so many movies that we've covered over the last almost 4 years, actually it's almost our anniversary. It's almost exactly 4 years in a few weeks. Wow. Unreal. What a fun ride. Glad you've been along with us. If you're new, welcome. But yeah, over the last 4 years, there's so many movies from my childhood when I revisit it. They just didn't hold up too well, but the next one we're going to be covering, man, still so good. Problem Child 2. And it was great because for it, I got to interview the director, Brian Levant. Brian is someone from, like he said it himself, from such a young age. He loved watching TV. He loved movies. He was a student of doing that. And then from there, we talked about his journey that touched, really, he worked with a few of our former guests and Bill Bickley, who worked on Happy Days. So as soon as Brian, during the interview, mentioned that, I go, oh, Bill Bickley. So we talked about that a little bit, working at Happy Days at such a young age, at the age of 23. And then one cool connection in his career is Leave It to Beaver. So you'll hear in the interview, you know, he loved it as a kid, and there's two big things he did later in life, which is pretty neat. And I think it's great because Problem Child 2 is his first, like, theatrical directing role. And that is really what took off. So we got to talk about, obviously, Jingle All the Way, Flintstones a bit. But one thing I love talking about, toys. He loves toys. So we talked about, like, the creation of the Turboman doll and his book, My Life in Toys. Great coffee table book. His brother-in-law is a big-time photographer. So great pictures, great cover to the book, too. If you're a Beatles fan, you'll enjoy that. So I'll put a link to that in the episode notes so you can check it out because it's super cool. And we talk about his collecting a little bit, where it started, and some of his favorites that he has. But we talked about TV, things that we do like, things we wish would get remade. And he was kind of the original, like, TV requel. So we'll talk about that too when he did the Leave It to Beaver series that was on in the late 80s on the Disney Channel. Pretty neat story. So yeah, so do me a favor, before I start the interview, please, please, please subscribe, like, share. If you use YouTube, go on YouTube. Even if you're listening to this, subscribe when you get a chance because it does help us, reach world domination. That's why we're in this, right? So you might hear my son Jack behind me because I'm recording this with him. It's been a crazy week, but it's going to get better for you, just like it did for me when I got to revisit this episode editing. So without further ado, here is director Brian Levant. So yeah, Brian, what I like to do with this, I love to find out, because every story, every movie, TV show, has a beginning, has an origin story. So your origin story, where did you grow up?
No, my origin story is very simple. I was born on the planet Krypton and was sent by my scientist parents. No, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago.
Nice.
And I grew up in an explosive era where television sets in homes and viewership skyrocketed, and for the first time in the history of man, you could sit in your home and images were broadcast live to you. Americans were already trained by radio to sit in a room together and stare at something. Now there was something worth staring at, and I grew up in an era of high energy, explosive entertainment, howdy doody, Rudy Kazootie. Captain Kangaroo was very mellow, but the rest of them, they went for the throat. They killed with vaudeville and energy. And in Chicago, actually, the Bozo show. Bozo was a syndicated show by Larry Harmon, who hit with it in Los Angeles and decided to sell it to individual stations. The one in Chicago ran for 41 years, far longer than any of its kind. But this was the entertainment that I was drawn to, that was built for me. While at the same time, I was very fortunate that that my mother in particular steered me so much into watching every week Jack Benny, Burns and Allen, Bob Hope, Red Skelton, Jackie Gleason, without Sid Caesar, for God's sake. Um,
Yeah.
with that you didn't know you were getting an education in comedy, and so I very much and I think the third part of that wheel was the kind of family entertainment that you saw particularly on ABC in the late 50s and really up into 1970, which was, Leave It to Beaver, the Donna Reed Show, Ozzie and Harriet, and My Three Sons. I mean,
Yeah.
those shows were literally on back to back to back to back. And shows
Just unreal when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Like they had that great of a lineup.
no. Hey, when I was in college, the CBS Saturday night lineup was All in the Family, MASH, Mary Tyler Moore, Bob Newhart, and Carol Burnett. Today, they don't even program. They don't program Saturday nights. They'll put on a college football game or something. But just shows how viewing habits have changed in television in general. But it's kind of my humor and my work have kind of really evolved from those three sources, and I never wanted to be a niche filmmaker. I wanted to play to the widest possible audience. Before I was a film director, I spent close to 20 years doing episodic TV, starting on Happy Days when it was the #1 show when I was 23 years old.
Wow. What year was that? What, 70s?
That was 19. I think my first episode was in 1976. And
Okay, I interviewed William Bickley. I don't know if he was still there then.
He actually came and helped out in one of my classes this past fall.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. No, a good guy who I worked for at the beginning of my career, and then he and his partner Michael Warren had stepped back a lot, and so it was he worked for me, which I'm sure was very uncomfortable for him. But a great guy. And anyways, Happy Days was as good a training ground as you could ever find. With Gary Marshall had a nose for finding people who he believed could work in his system, and his system was pretty easy. It was highly collaborative. It was competitive. It was people with a strong work ethic, people who were collaborative, and he prized energy and he prized participation, and he, they didn't call it team building in those days, but that's what he was great at. He cloaked it as a family, and he treated people like family. And if you've ever been in business with anyone in your family, they're trying to screw you financially. So, but he did it in the nicest possible way. And there's probably hundreds of notable people who benefited from his finding them and nurturing them. Including William S. Bickley, who was, I think, 24 years old, maybe 25 years old when he started producing Happy Days, when he'd never produced a network show.
Yeah, no, I know. He told me how nervous he was, because just before that, the only shows... So, Brian, what was that journey like from being a kid watching TV and knowing it was something that you wanted to play to a wide audience? What was that journey to land that job at 23?
Well, I went to a lot of movies. I watched a lot of TV. I cobbled together, with my grades in high school, I wasn't getting into NYU or USC or UCLA, but I still managed to cobble together a wonderful film education. I attended 4 different colleges. New Mexico, where I finally graduated from, Arizona, the Art Institute of Chicago, and Cal Arts. And I was never a technical filmmaker. I couldn't. In those days, you had to load a 16 millimeter camera in the dark. Now, how the hell was I going to do that? As trouble with a hammer. Uh, and but I had ideas, and I, like I said, I really studied TV. And when I talk about this, the Saturday night lineup on CBS, I know it so well because I didn't go out. I watched those shows and I tried to see how they were telling stories, how they were using their characters, how they were developing their characters, how they sustained their success. And those, and I still had a mountain to climb, knowledge-wise, when I started breaking in. But I had good ideas, and they gave me the time and the place to learn how to be successful and learn how to maintain success, and how to channel all of your knowledge and energy into producing a weekly, an amazing, every week you birth a child, you create something, yeah, and you send it out into the world, and it's a tough job. But my first year in the majors, so to speak, after they invited me to join the staff on Happy Days for the 77-78 season, I did, from one season to the next, I did 51 episodes of television, 27 Happy Days, 24 Please Stand By, a syndicated show created by Bill Bickley and his then partner Michael J. Warren, and did episodes for other series as well. And after that year, I went from being, a gangly, unsure rookie to kind of a veteran comedy writer. That was quite an indoctrination period, and I acquired a tremendous amount of knowledge, and from there, I tell my students, that it's how important it is just to do the job, to arrive on time, to be ready, to know things that I can't tell you how many times that my career advanced because other people didn't show up. They didn't do the job that they were hired to do. And thus opportunity went to other places and people who showed that they wanted and were willing and capable of handling those responsibilities. And I also tell my students, it's not, when I was in college, there were maybe 20 film programs in the country. Now you have hundreds, and you're not just competing against every graduate from these 200, say, film institutions, but you're also competing against the best from around the world who want to come to Hollywood. And this has been ongoing since, Eric von Stroheim landed in the early 20s here. This is where the worldwide fame is. This is where the bigger money is. This is, and that's why people have always been attracted and have more opportunity. When you look at what was Best Picture, a couple of Korean film, who would have ever thought?
Yeah.
No, not even in English. But it is a tough business. When I entered the Writers Guild, I believe there were 1,800 members. Today, there are 10,000 members, 2/3 of which make I believe it's close to $39,000 a year that it takes to maintain their health insurance.
Wow.
And
that's a lot. That's a lot of writing.
That's a lot of, there's 480 scripted shows out there today, wow. I've heard. And there's a lot of opportunities. However, the game has changed. Like I said, my first year on Happy Days, they shot 27 episodes. Today, if young Sheldon does 18, I'll be surprised. And on streaming, it's 8 or 10 episodes for a season. And still, they are trying to squeeze writing staffs down in number and that you can no longer have a series job that you can support a family on in and of itself. You're not seriously. You're not working 7 months a year. You're not working 8 months a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the time is really condensed, and maybe the product is a little better, and maybe you have more time on each one. But overall, it's become more difficult. So I've heard, you know.
Yeah. Do you have like a theory on why that, especially network TV, that they're cutting down episodes?
Well,
Say like a Young Sheldon.
Well, Leave It to Beaver used to do 39 a year.
Yeah, all those shows. That's why it's so shocking when you look at like the Munsters. You look at IMDb or anything for like the Munsters or any of those old shows. You're like, oh, that must have been on for a few years. No, it was on for like 2 years, but they shot like 40 episodes, right?
Oh, no, 78 episodes of the Munsters.
70. Yeah. Oh, I mean like 40 a year. Yeah.
39.
So, yeah, right around there.
Right, and don't forget that the Munsters was done by Leave It to Beaver's creators, Bob Moser and Joe Connolly.
I think that's it. One thing that's cool whenever I talk to someone, and just by looking at their IMDb, sometimes they could tell a story. And I think yours is really neat, especially after mentioning, I could have guessed that Leave It to Beaver was a show that you watched as a kid. So I'm sure that had like some seminal moment, because throughout all your writing that you do on so many different shows in the 80s and producing the new Leave It to Beaver, like how long did you have the idea to develop that show?
When I got to LA in the spring of 1975, I made a list of things I wanted to do. The second one on that list were 3 words: Still the Beaver. And this emanated from when I was in high school and was after school watching an episode in my friend's parents' little den on a black and white TV, and I'm watching Beaver, and I said to myself, "Now this is 6-7 years after the show went off the air in June of '63." And I said, I wonder what those guys are doing today. And that seed of an idea stayed with me and grew and grew. And after I had some credibility, when I put a show on the air that premiered after the Super Bowl and produced 2 seasons of the Bad News Bears series.
Nice.
I teamed up with another Happy Days guy, Nick Abdo, and we started knocking on Universal's door to do a movie of the week, a revival. And it was it took years to get there. And it was tremendously successful, despite my disappointment with the work of the director. And had I not been so unhappy with that, I would have said, job well done. Instead, I said, damn, this could still be so much better. And we decided to turn it into a series. We found a very willing partner in the Disney Channel, which at that time was a pay service. And and we made 26 episodes of Still the Beaver, the most successful show in the history of the Disney Channel, beating in Disney Channel homes all network and cable competition, an 80 share in Disney Channel homes on our premiere. And so they canceled us.
Oh my gosh.
And it really was an argument over theme parks in Orlando, as Universal was intending to invade and now is landed and built a park in Disney's stronghold of Orlando. So, but whether they just wanted to get even or they really did have a soft spot for the series, which was one of 2 series that they owned when Lou Wasserman bought the studio in like 1958 or 9. And that was Alfred Hitchcock Presents and Beaver. So they kept it in production until they found another home, which turned out to be Ted Turner's WTBS. Ted was a huge fan, and he gave us what was then the largest episodic order in the history of television, 74 more episodes. And so we spent many happy years in Mayfield. And during that time, and especially after Nick left, and more of the production and post-production duties fell to me beside the writing and producing the show and directing a lot of them, because I could hire myself to be a director. No one else was going to do it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it really laid the groundwork for making a really smooth transition to being a director on studio films, particularly at Universal, where they knew me and I think they really trusted me, which was tough with those guys. But by the same token, Scheinberg and Wasserman were the people who discovered and nurtured Spielberg. So, like Gary Martin, there were
Yeah, I
always
know.
somebody who might make them another couple billion. I wasn't that person. They might have had hopes at one point.
Is that what got you into directing? Just because you had such a vision and a passion for this? Is that why you stepped into the director chair, knowing that it would get the result that you wanted?
I can thank the hack who did the Beaver TV movie. I was producing Happy Days at the time, so I couldn't be around really. But I'd go to Universal and watch dailies during my Happy Days lunch. Just zip up the 101, I watch dailies, and usually I'd go back to Paramount in tears at what I was seeing, and I just never wanted anybody to butcher my material again, even though by many accounts and numbers, everything, it was hugely successful. The second highest rated movie of the week of the year, but I saw what really could have been, and I think having a vision of what things can be has really been an asset with me, and then working towards achieving that vision. And that's what the fun part is, coming up with it. After that, it's drudgery. That's what Hitchcock said. It's storyboard. The rest is, oh my God, I wish I didn't have to do it. I worked it out. I know what it looks like.
Was there a lot of copycats after this? Because usually in film and TV, when an idea works, was there other shows developed that I don't remember?
Well, no, I guess I'm the copycat. I'm the one doing the Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, Leave It to Beaver.
Well, no, but I'm saying you did it wasn't like you were doing the same exact show. It was them as adults. I mean, like,
yes,
was there other shows? Did they try to?
Oh, yes. Well, Universal tried to do the Munsters. I've tried to do the Munsters and always gotten tripped up by people with, I don't know what they want. But a couple of times, you see, when I've deemed to do revivals and continuations of franchises, I want to deliver what I want to see as a fan from those characters, from the situations that I adore. Otherwise, why would I be interested in this reboot? Right?
Yeah.
And it's not a very large bullseye, but I think when things are done by people with tremendous affection and respect for things, rather than saying, I want to do my version of it. Yeah, I want to do my version of it, but what I want to do is the best possible version of what I, as a fan of Full House, of that 70s show. What do you really want to see from that, and how do you deliver it while expanding the scope and the breadth of the characters, and making things contemporary and making them realistic to the point you need to sustain the comedy that you want to achieve.
Yeah. Do my three grandsons, call the Livingston brothers, and maybe they would be on board. Barry and Stanley.
Once I actually, Ricky Nelson's 4 kids came to me once to do a show about them, and it actually would have been very good, because Tracy was a single working mother, and her two brothers, Gunther and the other one, Nelson, were having a bit of a downturn, is transitioning from teen pop stars to roots artists, and then they actually had a little brother that I didn't know about, who was like a crazy computer genius who went to Harvard.
Oh, wow.
And so basically we put a show together about all of them living together and helping Tracy raise her daughter in their grandparents' old house. So,
Wow.
but nobody ever bit on that. But I thought that was a realistic way to do, Ozzie and Harriet, but not do Ozzie and Harriet whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there needs to be authenticity. I think Star Trek has been very fortunate in their choices and how to do continuations of things, and also some very good collectibles.
And just fans aren't stupid. I think they can tell when there's passion involved in a show when they're trying to do a continuation or a requel, whatever the term that people use.
Let me ask you this question: did you see Rob
Sure.
Zombie's Munsters movie?
I didn't try it. I watched the trailer and that was enough for me. To be honest.
And I wanted to see it, and then I saw the trailer and I said, "There's no need to make myself sick."
I know.
But that goes back to people who really aren't funny. He's let's face it. I couldn't make a horror movie that discussed people the way he does. What to save my life? Ha ha ha. But people who are comedy people generally gravitate to comedy, even if they grow out of it, like Rob Reiner, like Gary Marshall, like James L. Brooks. But that's where their heart took them.
Just hard to cast that show. I think that's the hard that's one of many hard things. But I don't know. I just watched it. It just seems so just not the vibe of the old show. And that's what you kind of look for when you look at those. I don't know if you ever saw like it only made it to a pilot, but there was 1313.
Yeah, Mockingbird Lane.
That was a cool spin on it, at least.
Really, that was $14 million. They're never going to see again. It's as far.
Oh my god!
It's as far from the Munsters as you could get, and that's why I said I don't think people want people to reinvent things. I think they want to capture what they love about it and contemporize it to a point. But there's an aura that shows give up, and there's an attachment, and I think I've been successful in rekindling those attachments because I'm approaching it as a fan, not as someone trying to put their own stamp or spin. And I remember but I'm also kind of a simple guy. A guy from the New York Times interviewing me about the Flintstones said, "What do you say when people say that the film isn't ironic enough?" And I said, "Oh, I really don't know what that means." And he thought I was kidding. I wasn't.
But that's a good like segue, just because it is so hard to cast. Like I think that's your situation was going from cartoon to casting, obviously a human in like John Goodman and Rick Moranis, but that's what I think Addams Family did in the recent years with the animated movies. Is I think they got to this point. Besides Wednesday Addams, which is on, which it's okay,
it's Netflix's biggest hit in a long time.
Oh, I know that. No, I totally get that. But me as a fan, I just think of like Raul Julia and John Astin. Like they nailed that so good. So it's almost like the studios were like, let's just do cartoon for them. I'm surprised they haven't done that with the Munsters yet to get it out there.
Well, I don't think they really want to. No one really wants to stake their career on the Munsters today.
Why not? So good.
We also have to realize that the Munsters debuted in 1964. This is This is a
I
long time.
know, I know.
My students have never seen Happy Days or Mork and Mindy, and they don't think they've ever seen All
Wow.
in the Family, and maybe a few have seen a couple MASH or Mary Tyler Moore. But but look, He-Man's coming back. Can't you? Isn't that enough for you?
Okay. Yeah, no, I guess so. But so how does that transit? How does that conversation happen with Universal that like Problem Child 2 is presented? Was there a bunch of films out there and you auditioned for that, or did they go to you and say, "Hey, we got this movie"? Or
Well, that's a very unique story because Problem Child 1, despite, and this is common knowledge, despite a tremendous amount of reshooting and re-editing and putting in a lot of music and everything, despite all the difficulties they had, it was very successful. And they actually booked a release date before they had a script. So I think
oh
they
my
wanted
god,
to be sure that they had a film in time to make their release date, and that had them looking at TV directors, and TV directors, are used to making schedules, you know, and I Universal, the top brass knew me from Beaver, from my other show there, My Secret Identity, which was so these were
yeah,
their first syndicated show, and their first pay cable show, and their first basic cable show, all at once. And they trusted me. They wanted to shoot the movie in Orlando. Great. I just had opened Universal's studio in Orlando, and we did the last season of Beaver there. John Ritter was a star the year before. I had written 2 pilots for his company, one of which co-starred Amy Yazbek, who
oh yeah,
was later John's wife and widow, and she starred in one of those pilots and was, of course, also in Problem Child. They had problems with the little boy and his family. A lot of it stems from, you got to know how to work with kids. I cut my teeth doing the Bad News Bears and Beaver, which is totally built around kids. Uh, and and so, anyways, they had problems with Michael Oliver and his family, and I didn't because I had cast his older brother to be Fonzie's adopted son at the end of Happy Days. Had the show continued, he would have been a regular.
oh my gosh,
They wanted Jack Warden to reprise his role as Big Ben Healy, and I had produced, as I just said, the Bad News Bears series starring who? Jack Warden. And plus, my youngest daughter was in the same nursery school as the head of production. So put it all together, and I was
yeah,
given a tremendous opportunity and leaped over a lot of very, very experienced people and went out there and made kind of a kick-ass kids comedy,
yeah.
violent, unexpected, going for the throat comedically again and again and again, and it worked, and I was very happy with it, and I learned a lot doing it. And what can you say? It paved the way to do a number more films at Universal. Beethoven, the Flintstones sequel, and I had a TV deal as well, and cranked out another Problem Child movie. And one of my favorite projects, The Adventures of Captain Zoom in Outer Space, which has a history of, shall we say, inspiring rather than ripped off by Galaxy Quest. Yeah, I said it.
oh, yeah, you did, you did. That's so great. So, how quick did you have to shoot that movie? Was it like
No,
like a
no,
few
no,
months? Is that how?
that was easy. That was 40 days.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, that was, and we had to shoot, I don't know, it was like an 85, 90 page script or something like that. And they said, you're going to have to shoot 2.5 pages a day. I said, I'm used to shooting 7 in a day. But, what I found in movies is, yes, you can do 7 pages and you can do 32, 33 setups a day. Now, in a movie, you're going to shoot fewer pages, but you're going to do a lot more coverage. In the scene, meaning the scenes will be composed of a much higher number of shots. So that to me has really been the difference, is the extravagance of coverage and time and planning ability.
Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
Which do you like better? Well, did you still keep that same shooting style? Obviously, you said more coverage.
Yeah,
that's the thing now. But is there one that you prefer to the other?
I didn't do anything different in movies than I was doing anywhere else. I shot at at a furious pace. To get things done, to keep it moving. It can be a real grind. And you got to make it fun for 85 people. You got to keep it energized. You have to keep the performances fresh. And you have to, like I was talking about with Gary Marshall, build a team so everyone's working towards a common purpose. And that's what allows you to work with a lot of different kinds of people pulling together. People always say, well, what's it like, working with Ice Cube? And what they're really saying is, how does an old Jewish guy work with Ice Cube? And the answer is that sharing a common vision, that we were able to really collaborate and achieve what we aimed for, and were at the time his highest grossing film. And I saw it not too long ago, and it packs a big comic punch, and it keeps punching. So we're very proud of that one.
Yeah, it gave the world a different view on him, You got to think before that, it was the Friday movies.
Yeah, Boys in the Hood. That's what you think of.
Well, Boys in the Hood, yeah. So then that was that gave the audience a different way to view him. And then from there, he did some other family movies too. He did obviously a sequel and a few other family-oriented movies.
Yes, no, he's certainly a well-rounded entertainer at this point, and producer as well. So the only thing that was bad about Are We There? No toys from Are We There Yet? Jingle All the Way, I got shells. Happy Day, I got shells. Mork, I got shells.
So no, let's talk about your book real quick, because I think it's a good transition. So My Life in Toys. At what point did you think about writing a book? Was this something like Leave It to Beaver, years in the making?
Yes. No, it has been many, many years. But let's say the book is really a summation of a half a century as a collector of toys, of pop memorabilia, and especially how it relates and integrates with my work. As I said, Happy Days, there was 20,000 licensed products, probably half that overall from Mork and Mindy. God knows how many licenses there ever were for the Flinstones from 1961 on. The Munsters, Leave It to Be. Everything I've been associated with has also been a huge source of toys. And, I've been collecting, you can say you started collecting as a kid, but, everything you had, your parents threw out, right?
I know.
I'll never forget, coming home from camp one year, and my mother had thrown out my comic book collection and our father. And needless to say, I was very upset about the comic book collection. But, as you start to get a little older, you try to recapture a piece of your youth in many respects.
Oh, yeah.
And the things that remind you of, as I said, I grew up in the 50s, and it was a very optimistic time, and also the largest increase in consumer spending in the history of man. And so much of that was to buy toys for the baby boomer generation, and the toys became better and more complex and more interesting and more based on the shows that you watch, the cereals you ate. It was all a huge conspiracy to boost consumerism, and it was very effective. And I was certainly an ambassador to that. And so, as I frankly, had a little more discretionary income. So much of it went towards toys and building my collections of Mr. Peanut and animation stuff, Popeye stuff, sci-fi stuff, sports stuff, the Beatles, Hulk Hogan. I have a lot of Hulk Hogan. I love Hulk Hogan. Can't stand wrestling. Love Hulk Hogan toys. Colorful, beautiful, display great. He became Hollywood Hulk, twice as many toys. So there comes a point where my line is, I don't have room for another olive oil. And it's not like everything's in one room, like some of my friends whose wives make them keep their Batmobiles at the office. Our entire house, thousands and thousands of giant things, tiny things, watches, salt and pepper shaker, advertising vinyls. I have one of our prized possessions is a 5 foot tall paper mache Bob's Big Boy figure that used to be on the station's Van Nuys Boulevard. It's no longer there, but on sunny days they would wheel it outside, and we have things like that, and giant trade signs and neon, and it's just everywhere. And you look around and say, one of these days we may just move, or maybe it's time to get rid of this. And I thought, well, that's a pity. And I started plotting to photograph it and to turn it into a book that tells the story of my illnesses in collecting. And I'm very fortunate that my brother-in-law, Joe Pellegrini, is one of the top tabletop photographers in the country. For instance,
oh my God!
Yes, every Subway sandwich you've seen on a billboard, in-store ad, a magazine behind the counter for the past 16 years, he shot. And if he can make a Subway sandwich look appetizing, think of what he can do with a beautiful Japanese robot. And so for about 9 years, every time I'd go to Chicago, I'd bring a box of toys, and we would spend a furious day unwrapping, cleaning, shooting, wrapping, and send it back, and do it again and again and again until we had taken 7,000 photographs that were then over, thanks to COVID, really got an opportunity to work on this. And out of that, there are over 1,100 original color photographs in the book. And the book is huge. It's almost a foot tall. And I think it's 3 7/8 inches and 12 inches high. It's a coffee table book the size of a coffee table. Man,
I gotta order it. That's cool. No, I love. My wife does photography as a hobby, and that's we have a bunch of like coffee table books, so that'd be neat to have. So, what is like the rarest one you have? Is there something so odd or?
Well, a couple of things. Certainly, the Bob's Big Boy is
Oh yeah.
Something that should be in the Smithsonian. But in our backyard, at an architectural place in Chicago, I found a very neglected 29 by 19 foot foreshortened Wonder Bread loaf, porcelain sign weighing thousands and thousands of pounds in 13 pieces. And of course, I had it shipped out and assembled in my backyard. It used to live atop originally on the Wonder Bread factory in Detroit. And now I just look out the window and there it is.
You look at it.
Huge. It's ridiculous, and I can't tell you how much I love it. But that doesn't mean that I don't feel as strongly about things I got out of gumball machines and different comedian items. Some of the Marx Brothers things I own, like a beautiful self-portrait that Groucho did for a fan in 1938.
Wow.
Yes, no. So and I became kind of close with Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera making the Flintstone movies.
Oh, nice.
Particularly Joe Barbera, who was really a very as cool a guy as you'll ever see in his 90s, and he wrote his autobiography, which was My Life in Tunes, which was kind of the inspiration for My Life in Toys, which was all taken from Charles Dickens' My Life in Times. But I'd rather take it from Joe. And in it, he wrote the most beautiful inscription you could ever ask for from one of your childhood heroes, and somebody who was incredibly confident, understood his place in the culture, and was proud of it, but wasn't affected by it. Really decent, down to earth, hard working still. At his advanced age, and probably he and his partner were the most satisfied people I'd ever come across, and for him to respond to my work the way he did again and again was a joy and unexpected, truly.
Since you collect, were you one person to collect things from sets like Happy Days?
No. Yes, from Happy Days, I wrote an episode. I did the pilot for Happy Days We Never Saw, which was How Did Richie and Fonzie Meet? And so we did a flashback episode, and Fonzie was in a gang then in the Falcons. And at the end of the season, I asked to take one of the Falcons jackets home, and I wore that thing until the pockets wore out, literally. But the last thing someone wants to see is somebody, number one on the call sheet, walking out with a bunch of free stuff. It's not good for morale. Yeah. So I never know. I never really did stuff like that. A couple little pieces from the Flintstones. Fred's license plate, Yabadoo.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, but
no, it's so cool when I came on and I saw just your behind you and seeing that gigantic Turboman doll. And that movie, you just think of how cool that movie, because it invented a character and had a toy just from that movie, which is sort of rare. There's not a lot of times like.
But that's how I decided to do it. Page one is it opened with manufacturing Turboman. So I said, oh my God, I get to design a toy line. Oh my God, it's the hottest toy in the world. Oh my God, this is gonna be huge. And of course it wasn't. It was a great process to design Turboman and try to create a contemporary version of the Rocketeer, of Commander Cody, another one from the 50s that I loved, where he'd just take off and they'd cut to a stock shot of him flying. And the amazing thing is, after all that effort, all that work, that we created a hero that looks incredibly like Iron Man. It was very rewarding last year on Jingle All the Way's 25th anniversary that the toy that Tiger Toys made of Turboman, which we envisioned as being the hottest selling toy in America, just sat on the shelves well into March. But today is the originals are a collector's item, and on the 25th anniversary, that Funko would not only reproduce that toy as a Walmart exclusive that became literally the hottest toy in America, and a line of Funko Pops, 5 different Funko Pops, very clever images of the people and moments from the film. And so it took a long time, but we got there.
But you were right. You could go to whoever doubted you and you'd be like, see?
Yeah, well, the next time, in like 99, Fox sent us a letter saying, we're not even going to bother sending out profit and loss statements because this will never, ever, ever make any money. And I don't know. So now it's 26 years later. Maybe they're wrong. I'd like to find out.
Such a good, honestly, the movie's so good. I showed my daughter; she's 4, and it was just so funny. Like Phil, like obviously, just the comedy of Arnold in a situation like this, and him fighting everyone, and
Yeah, no,
I love the movie. And Phil Hartman.
Well, great loss, but
Oh, I know.
it was a tough movie to make because we set the bar very high on stunts, on action, and on comedy. And it was the first time that Arnold truly had to carry a comedy on his shoulders, and literally scene to scene, which is one of the hardest jobs in storytelling. It really is, and and I don't think people understand, that it's easy to be funny, when you're not responsible for it. Look at the difference between Phil Hartman in the movie and Arnold. Phil is just every time he's on camera, bam, boom, boom, but he's not lugging this heavy emotional tale on his back on this quest, this Don Quixote-ish journey through the commercialism of Christmas.
Yeah, no, Phil's with all the moms in the neighborhood. That's the best part.
That's right. So all the fathers are out working, and he's banging them in the afternoon.
Yeah, a real reindeer. Yeah, I got a real reindeer.
Well, not the one he slugged. That was a wonderful animatronic that was even made to snort steam.
Was Arnold always attached, or
no? They wanted it to be a movie for Arnold originally. I believe the idea was to get Dan Stern to play Howard Hughes.
Oh, okay.
And then someone had the idea, let's team up Arnold and Danny DeVito. Arnold said yes. Danny said no. And
wait, who's oh, Danny would have been Sinbad?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So, in the short run, DeVito made the right decision. But it opened the door for Sinbad. And, I wanted someone who wasn't afraid to tangle with I wanted a big guy. I didn't want Arnold picking on, Peter Scolari, I wanted somebody who could, bang him into the newspaper rack and fight him for the telephone and tackle him and all this other stuff. So Sinbad was a great choice, and he doing better after recovering from a terrible stroke, but at the time he had such wonderful energy, very creative, hard worker, and they really gelled well. It became a terrific little rivalry, and I had a good time with them. Although I got to tell you a story. Last time I can't even remember what city I was. I don't think it was Chicago or L.A., but I'm sitting there with my wife. We're having a coffee or something, and I see Sinbad hustling to a plane, and I rush out. I go, "Hey, Sinbad!" And he said, "Hey, nice to see you, man." And I said, "No, Sinbad, it's Brian Levant." Oh, sorry.
Now, was that his first big movie that he was like in a kind of big lead role?
He and Phil Hartman, I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, the house guest.
The house guest, yes.
That was before that? Okay, I didn't know what was first.
I think he'd also done, First Kid or something like that as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I knew they were all bunched around each other. I didn't know which one was first, but no, that's especially DeVito and him bumping each other wouldn't be too good. But surprised he said no to that. He said yes to Junior, but he said no to this movie.
Well, that was Ivan. Ivan had a powerful hold of actors, which was, hey, I make hits.
Yeah. So, Brian, what are some things that you have coming up? Obviously, we can't cover everything that you have on your IMDb.
Can't cover everything I have coming up because, as I said, the book is very much a summation because I think, I'm not planning on making movies. I'd certainly be open to it if the right thing came along. It rarely has. In the last few years, I have been teaching for the past 6 years at both the University of Arizona and the University of New Mexico.
Cool.
Doing a sitcom boot camp where I take small groups of kids and we create, develop, write, rewrite an original half-hour streaming network-style show, and conclude with a reading for an audience and live streamed with local professionals and student performers. And it's been a very successful program and very rewarding, and I'm still enjoying that. I have one film in development at Illumination, an original CGI musical that I created.
Nice.
That's been in development for a couple of years there. I hope I live to see it if it comes out. These things take so long. But that is being produced and the music written by Pharrell Williams. So very happy about that. And, it may be a nice way to go out eventually. But, I'm planning a couple more books. I really, as much as I consider myself a writer, I also thought I could be a studio artist, and I may take another swipe at that as well.
What's your medium?
Well, I don't know yet. Probably more of a sculptor because I'm not that good at drawing.
Okay.
But as I'm really pushing myself away from the media table a little bit, it gives you opportunity to try other things and fulfill the creative urge without involving 85 other people every day. And, I started that journey, I submitted my first jokes to kids shows, Chicago, when I was in third grade. I always for, class, high school, local papers, started making films at 10. And so I've been doing this literally a long time. and you get to the point where you have satisfied those, this itchy, like as if you had measles, that you couldn't scratch that itch enough to ever satisfy. But, when I realized, when I stopped looking at the box office every Saturday and Sunday morning, that I was winning the battle against addiction.
But I think you said it best. It's about like when you're creative, you have a new outlet because it keeps your mind active. Like that's so important.
I hope so
to keep it going.
Yeah, no, but like I said, it really took a lot out of me because I worked very, very hard and at a very high level. I mean, usually when I'd finish a film, I'd hole up in a hotel room and like sleep. I'm not kidding, for like 36 hours. Just a tremendous expense of energy for prolonged over months. And with virtually no time off, if you're not shooting, you're prepping, you're preparing, you're casting, you're editing.
Yeah.
Trying to be a human. It's a tough job. And I guess that's why it pays well.
Yeah. One thing that was on, I know IMDb's never right, but I was hoping they were in this case. It has on your IMDb in development, the next installment of the Police Academy series.
Yes, no, that's another one whose time has passed, I'm afraid. But that was a wonderful project. We were assured by Warner Brothers when I put together an all-star team of writers to try and come together and take some of the existing and surviving members of Police Academy, surround them with a new group of recruits, and I always felt that it was a very successful franchise. I never related to it creatively. I thought it could be done much better. And I think the group that we put together, including Bennett Yellen, who wrote Dumb and Dumber with the Farrelly brothers and other films, with Line, who who created the Larry Sanders Show, and
Nice.
and Mary Hartman, Brad Morris from Second City, and produced Dice's show. Dave Richardson, supervising producer of The Simpsons, exec on Two and a Half Men, and an exec on F is for Family with Bill Barr.
Nice.
We really went to work on this, and we really delivered, and Warner Brothers just couldn't see to spend the money, and we're talking like an extra $1 million to achieve what we wanted to do, and so it just kind of fell apart, and I keep saying, well, take it to a streaming service, but the division at Warner's, who was developed for, well, if they're selling stuff to streaming services, then you don't need them anymore, do you? So
Yeah, right. Man, I would love another one, man. I love talking to Lance. I talked to Lance Kinsey a few years ago. Just such a nicest guy. Like, he'll email me randomly. And it's cool because when I talk to him, I think it's so great about that franchise because it's really hard, I think, for comedy franchises to get past like 3 or 4 films and still be good. And right behind his desk, he had the Police Academy 6 poster. And I really like that one.
They did a series. They did an animated series.
Yeah.
And they had a decent toy line from the series.
You have some of those
movies? No,
you have a high tower?
I don't, actually. I would have. Had the movie gone, I would have, and I also would have pressed for somebody to make from the original films a line of toys with Bubba Smith and all that group.
You gotta have Tackleberry.
Yeah.
I don't know how he ever had a gun because he was shooting at everyone. Almost killed his own father in one of the movies.
Almost all guns and horseshoes. It's not real.
Brian. Yeah. Brian, it's been awesome, man. Thanks so much for taking the time. I'll make sure when this is out in the next month and a half, I'll obviously send you a link, and I'll make sure to link your book. Where can people get it? Anywhere? Amazon or
Amazon,
website?
Link Amazon because it is the cheapest there.
Okay.
Down to $50 from $85.
Nice.
So that's a substantial reduction. Not because they're closing out. I guess when you hit a certain sales, they try to get more sales by lowering it. So let them go. Let them go, baby. All right. This has been fun.
Man, Brian was great. I loved just the connection throughout his career, like I mentioned in the intro, from loving Leave It to Beaver as a kid, the new Leave It to Beaver, and then doing the Leave It to Beaver movie in the late 90s. And Jingle All the Way, the fact that, wow, Danny DeVito, I could not imagine him in that role. Sinbad was perfect. Talked to little Flintstones and his toys, man. Bob's Big Boy. Man, cool little things that he has. He's a collector, and the one thing I do wish is whoever listens to this, maybe a higher executives, and they just say, you know what, people do want a new Police Academy movie. So I know I do. So thanks, Brian. And don't forget, I'll put the link to his book on Amazon in the episode notes so you can check it out. Any other links that he has too. So your homework is to watch Problem Child 2, worth it. You got John Ritter, Jack Warden, and man, Junior, the actor that plays Junior, he's just so good. Gilbert Gottfried's back in this movie. The plot of this movie is hilarious, I think, right from the jump. So don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast. Follow us on all social media at Sequels Only. And don't forget to check our website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.
Good night.